Welcome back to the morning show here on Tobago Updates Television, and thank you so much for staying with us. I am Adanna Combie, and we begin conversations this morning in studio. Very, very important conversation, and we do hope that you are locked in, that you can be a part of this conversation, have the information and the awareness as it relates to human trafficking. We're speaking with the Honorable Ayanna Webster-Roy. Yes, she is in studio this morning, and we're going to have this very, very important conversation. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Adanna. Let me take this opportunity to wish you all the best for 2025, as well as the rest of Trinidad and Tobago. May God continue to guide us and take us safely through this year.
Thank you so much, and the very same is extended to you as well in all your endeavors, all that you are doing. And again, congratulations in your successful screening. And of course, we're going to have this conversation this morning. And I think a topic that is not necessarily widespread in Trinidad and Tobago, while it happens, a lot of persons are not aware of what human trafficking is and what the status is in Trinidad and Tobago and how it impacts the lives of persons living here. So we're going to get straight into the conversation. Are you able to say what the status is in terms of persons being affected by human trafficking?
Human trafficking is not just an issue that is prevalent in Trinidad and Tobago. It's a global issue that affects the lives of many. Fortunately for us in Trinidad and Tobago, we were recently upgraded in terms of our status. We are now at Tier 2 based on the trafficking in person reports coming out of the United States Department of State. And we are working diligently to get into Tier 1, where it would show that we are at a place where we have all the mechanisms in place to reduce instances of human trafficking. But in our context, Adanna, what we see is persons often end up in our territory because they are trafficked here. And when people think about human trafficking, most times the mind goes to women being trafficked for sexual exploitation. But there are instances when children are trafficked into the country as well. There are instances where persons are trafficked because human slavery is still real. And in all contexts in Trinidad and Tobago, what we have recognized is that more and more we are seeing where persons are coming into the country, mostly from the South American countries. And unfortunately, the statistics would show it's mostly women and girls entering into the country. And unfortunately, when they enter into the country, they're being exploited, ending up in brothels and things like that. One of the things that the government would have been doing in collaboration with various state agencies as well as civil society organizations and international development partners is heightening our efforts in terms of public education and sensitization. So I want to commend you and your channel for what you're doing today, making the public aware that it is prevalent, it is real, it is happening within our borders, and that we need an all hands on deck and all of society approach in terms of addressing instances of human trafficking. Even though as government we might say, yes, we moved up, we are Tier 2 and it's cause a celebration, the fact that we are having to work towards reaching Tier 1 means that we have a problem, and we need all of Trinidad and Tobago to work towards ensuring that we eradicate this social issue. If I may share with you, even though the Ministry of National Security Counter-Trafficking Unit is the government's focal point treating with human trafficking, some years ago at the Gender and Child Affairs Division of the Office of the Prime Minister, we recognized that while the focus would have been placed on the persons who are the victims, that we also need to focus on those persons who are the clients. So we would have partnered with the counter-trafficking unit as well as some of the agencies within the oil and gas industry. And we had a project we called Project Sarah, where we were bringing information to those communities bordering the Southland in Trinidad and those communities that were involved heavily in the oil and gas industry, and working alongside the men, showing them how paying somebody who might have come into the country for sexual favors could affect you, could affect your community, could affect your family, could affect the economy, and ultimately could affect the social stability of Trinidad and Tobago. So Project Sarah would have gone into those communities, into those business places, providing information predominantly to men, showing them how they could become part of the response instead of being a client and helping to nurture an illegal business that is affecting lives, how you can become an advocate. Lend your voice, help us to reduce instance, because when you look at it, sex trafficking is a form of gender-based violence. Help to become a part of the quest towards eradicating gender-based violence in Trinidad and Tobago. And our intention is to continue partnering with the Counter-Trafficking Unit and other agencies to ramp up our efforts so that we help to not only end gender-based violence, but also reduce instances of human trafficking in Trinidad and Tobago and by extension in the global community.
You know, you're talking about Project Sarah, and you're telling me about, you know, having that conversations with the clients. How is that going? Because I'm thinking, if this is a lucrative business and this is something you're into, I know you're turning them from a client. This is like transitioning from a client to an advocate. This must be a difficult task. So what has the response been like where that is concerned?
When we rolled out Project Sarah, I must say the support that we would have received from the companies would have been tremendous. And the feedback from those males who would have participated was promising. What we try to show is that, yes, it might be a few moments of pleasure, but look on the wider impact. A few moments of pleasure may expose you to sexually transmitted infections. And if we are talking about having a Trinidad and Tobago that is able to achieve our global mandate in terms of ending AIDS by 2030, you have a role to play. We talk about the impact on your pocket, because every time you pay for a few moments of pleasure, it's taking away money that could go towards minding your children, paying off a bill. So it's trying to let them make the connection, the link between the behavior and how it impacts not only their personal life, but the wider community, the family life especially. Because when some of these persons end up in our territory and then they become integrated, they come with all the baggage, and we have to support them in getting to a better state. So when I say all the baggage, the economic needs, the health needs that we have to cater to. So money going towards money that is being channeled towards helping someone who might have come into the country, trafficked or otherwise, with a sexually transmitted infection, and then having to treat that person because they end up in the public health system. That is money that could have gone towards treating a citizen. And then talk about the children who end up in the country who might have been trafficked in, and they're here without any adult supervision, and they end up in the sites of the state through national security, or sometimes through the course they may end up being placed at St. Jude's, because that's where we have the facility where we facilitate migrant girls in Trinidad and Tobago. Thankfully, when the girls end up at St. Jude's, they don't stay for long, because efforts are made working alongside the various embassies and so on to get them to go back into their home country to get the relevant support, and they have that family system for them. As well as one of the measures we have taken to ensure that children who are trafficked in the country, if there are options for them to be repatriated, to be sent back home, that we have persons who may, if it's a Spanish-speaking persons of that community who may be able to help us in terms of fostering them and giving them that family-type setting. But what I want to stress, treating with human trafficking, similarly to treating with gender-based violence, it doesn't require just the state to intervene. That is where civil society is so important, because much of the public education and sensitization that is required, sometimes government may not be able to do it consistently. So that is why we need to empower the NGOs, give them the funding, the support, the technical support, the financial support to get into the communities, get down to the grassroots level, and to continue the education and sensitization to change mindset and ultimately change behavior. So that is what we are working towards.
And you know, that was leading to my next question in terms of public education, because this is a topic. When you're talking about different tiers, you're talking about different clients, you're talking about different agencies, it's a lot of information to having a 20-minute conversation. It's not possible at all. And for me, once you have the information, the education for me is very, very important. So I was going to ask, what is the plan in terms of a public education drive on a consistent basis to ensure the average man on the street understands what human trafficking is, the vulnerability vulnerable age groups, what to look for, how can I contribute to reduce this, and of course to get us to that tier 1, because we want to be in a position where, listen, we are clean.
Yes.
We are clean in Trinidad and Tobago, and we do not tolerate or accept this type of behavior. So there must be some type of aggressive public education on a continuous basis. And I'm talking about collaboration, not just with state agencies, as you mentioned, but also with corporate T&T,
yes,
all the NGOs. What is that looking like in terms of getting them on board to agree, listen, we really need to do this to get this done, because we really want to present a place. I mean, you want to present a place that is safe. Let's say, for instance, okay, people are trafficked into Trinidad and Tobago. It's hardly likely that people might be trafficked out. You don't know. But perhaps
it could be happening, and we're just not getting the information and the data to show that it is prevalent in terms of persons being trafficked out of Trinidad and Tobago. So let me give you a joke. I'll get to your answer in terms of what we're doing in public education and sensitization. I remember there was a time a lot of young girls were being kidnapped. You remember that? They were just disappearing. And I was having a conversation with my personal assistant in the vehicle. And I said to her, I said, we're not finding some of them. We're not finding them find anything. And she said to me, Minister, ever thought about maybe they're being taken out of Trinidad and Tobago? And it was hard for me to wrap my head around. But I was looking at a show recently, and this is so profound. And it was about young persons on social media trying to find opportunities for themselves. So some wanted to be models, some wanted to get into the music industry, and they were responding to ads. Unwittingly responding to these ads that was taking them to a place where they were being kidnapped and then trafficked out of their country. And she said to me, she said, Minister, remember that movie you telling me about? She said, it could be happening here in Trinidad and Tobago as well, where sometimes we see these ads on the papers, meet at some nondescript location, and then when you really look into it, it's not really a legitimate business. The location might not be a legitimate business place, and girls turn up and then they disappear. But I don't want to frighten anybody. I want to reassure Trinidad and Tobago that there's been continuous effort by the state to work alongside corporate Trinidad and Tobago, as well as civil society organizations, NGOs, to continue the messaging. Very often I will put on my radio when I'm in Trinidad, or the television when I'm in Tobago, because I don't get good signal in Goodwood. And I would hear the stories about the ladies talking with the Spanish accent. And I was brought into your country, and they're talking about it, and then you have the information at the end, if you're aware what to do, who to contact. And what I want to tell persons that we all have to be part of the response. That little ad, pay attention. Don't just listen for the comments to hear when she's saying that the money, I don't get any of it because my handler, just don't listen for the comments. Listen for the information at the end where it tells you who to contact. I want to encourage those civil society organizations that have been out there working alongside grassroots people, grassroots organizations, working alongside communities, bringing the information to continue to reach out for support. I know at times the funding may be difficult to come by, but we have always found creative ways to help to meet the needs of the organization. So, for example, under the Spotlight initiative that would have happened in the past, I remember a number of NGOs in Tobago would have received support to roll out work in the communities. And under Spotlight, Tobago was one of the focal communities, as well as Mayaro, as well as another community in Trinidad. And in all instances, I remember Spotlight focused on ending gender-based violence and protecting women and girls in families. In all instances, I'm positive because I was the main lead for the nation. Instances of work being done to address issues around human trafficking would have been included because we saw the connection, the nexus between gender-based violence and human trafficking. Again, I want to encourage parents to teach our children to be savvy when it comes to being online, to be smart, because a lot of persons fall into traps going online, engaging with persons who may be profiling them and monitoring them and finding weak spots to get an entryway to get their children and to take them away. I want to encourage women that whenever we are going out to maybe respond to ads or opportunities for employment, to inform someone else. let us set up our own little circles of hope and circles of protection so that we could know that, okay, you're going to Adanna, you're going to an ad, you let me know, and I could be monitoring you. Just in the car coming down here this morning, I was having a conversation with my my assistant from in the constituency office and my brother. And we were talking about Life 360, how we use it to safeguard each other. And I said, now that my children are out of an age where they want to party, that gives me a measure of comfort. Because we know, okay, I seeing Kiona walking down Pigeon Point, I know she in the Fed still. Or my daughter is a national athlete, so sometimes she's in Trinidad on her own. I could monitor her through Life 360. Okay, she's in a ride share now. She's at the training ground. Let us start using the technology to help us to monitor and support each other. But most importantly, to share information, to communicate. If you see something suspicious happening in your community, you notice a strange van coming in every night, you see ladies coming in, you're not seeing them in the day, but you might see them in the night, ask a question. That we're using McQueen skills to something good. And if you ask a question and you feel uncomfortable, that you might become targeted, call 800 tips. You know, call the police. Tell somebody else and let them start to investigate, because what we want is for all of us to become agents in combating this very real issue. And I want us to know it's not just a Trinidad and Tobago thing, it's a global issue. The United States, while they may be the one reporting on countries, they are grappling with this, and their statistics are very startling as well.
You know, you said a lot there, and you know, I really want our viewers to pay attention. There are quite a few things I want you to pick up. One, parents, we have a responsibility. Remember, we always say on this channel, it takes a village, and the village has to come together. The community has to come together. We have to be alert, and we have to be in people's business in a positive way. You know, and you did say that, you said that we must report. We must tell somebody where you're going. Yeah. You're going by the shop. I'm going by the shop. If it usually takes you 5 minutes to come back from the shop and 10 minutes go on and you're not back, call the person. You know, we really have to be our brother's keeper, and we have to pay attention to the information that is out there coming out of the ministries, all the government agencies and all the other agencies who are collaborating against this, on this fight against human trafficking here in Trinidad and Tobago. The ministries are working. We need to get the information. We need to get on board, and we need to partner and ensure that our spaces are clean, not just because they are imported into Trinidad and Tobago. You never can tell. Somebody from right home by you can be extracted into another country and trafficked for all kind of things that you don't want to even think about. So let us be very, very vigilant. Minister, in closing, is there any additional information you'd like to share with our viewers?
I would like to encourage persons to do what I did last night. When I reached out to Minister of National Security to understand more of what is happening, he told me, he said to go to the United States Department of State website and to search up the TIPS report. You can look to see what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago, but you could also get a global context. And then it will put things into perspective. When you understand as persons are trafficked for harvesting of human organs. Persons are trafficked into different countries to work as slaves. Persons are trafficked into different countries to be sexually exploited. And when we talk about sexual exploitation, not just women and girls, sometimes young boys, little boys are trafficked as well. And that information will be a wake-up call. So I want to encourage everyone to take the opportunity to go onto the website and to read the various reports and see what is happening globally, and make a conscious effort to see how you could become part of the response. You could become part of the fight to make a safer Trinidad and Tobago, but also a safer global community.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Minister, for coming here this morning and sharing that information. A really engaging conversation. I really enjoyed having this chat with you this morning. And viewers, I do hope you were able to pick up all the information that was shared there. And of course, the advice to go on the website to get more information. You can even contact local ministries right here in Trinidad and Tobago that will guide you through where you can get more information and how you can be a part of this fight against human trafficking here in Trinidad and Tobago. We have to go for a short break before we continue conversations in studio. And remember, when we come back, Mr. Cricket, Marcus Daniel is in studio. He's going to take you through all that's happening in sport here on the island of Tobago for the weekend. And I'm telling you, exciting things are happening. And he might tell me, Adanna, let me do my show now, please, because I'm excited for what is happening this weekend. Yes. But in the meantime, we invite all of you to help us share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.